All right, let's get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our October webinar. This morning, we're going to be joined by Adam Sachs, President of Tourism Economics, to talk about the new research that we've committed to. And I think you're going to be really excited by what you see. And he's also going to give us some insight into recovery. So let's get started. First, I'd like to show you the STAR report from September. And we ran nearly 61% occupancy for the city and the county with rates that we haven't seen since July of 2019. Downtown revenue was up 406% and the county was up 268%. That is a lot in part due to the Ryder Cup, Summerfest happening in the month of September, and the Brewers playing both the Cubs and St. Louis during the month of September, all of which helped us to drive that rate. Obviously, occupancy is not back where it was, but we are seeing that significant rebound in rate, which is helping overall revenues. As the hospitality sector continues to rebound, we'd like to welcome back over 30 new partner businesses in September. You can see here Bounce Milwaukee, Bucyrus Club and Event Center, Buttermint, City Tins, Cream City Print Lounge, the Fermentorium Brewery and Tasting Room and their Barrel House, Glass Note Candle Bar, Greenhouse Number 7, the Harp, Holler House, the oldest bowling alley in the United States, Indeed Brewing Company, Kin Guest House, Milwaukee Downtown, Lux Golf Bays over in Franklin, Craft and Relic, RSVR, Shake Shack, Soul for the Soul, Sprecher Brewing Company, Sweetly Baked, Tanya's Food Truck, Tavolino, Trinity Three Irish Pubs, Tua Pasta, Tupelo Honey, all three of the Water Street Brewery locations, Vendetta Coffee Bar, and Voluptuous Secrets. A huge welcome out to all of these. It's them and all of the businesses that make our city a destination of choice, and we're grateful for all of your partnership. If you'd like to learn more about these businesses, just hop onto our website. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some people from the tourism community that we lost this past month. We extend our deepest condolences to the family of Tim Malinak. Tim was most recently the executive director of the Walworth County Visitors Bureau. And before that, he spent time in Milwaukee at the Public Museum and the Art Museum, where he worked tirelessly to ensure the best possible experience for visitors to our city. To Tim's family and friends, we are sorry for your loss. I also want to extend condolences to the family of longtime Wisconsin Restaurant Association CEO Ed Lump. Ed was a force in our industry, and he will certainly be missed as well. The latest tracking study by Longwoods International of American travelers suggests that a return in traveler confidence in present and future travel as the Delta variant recedes. 27% of travelers say the pandemic would greatly affect their travel in the next 6 months, which is down 36% from a month ago. And I have to think that that's the biggest jump we've seen since they started reporting on not the Delta, but on COVID. The percentage of travelers who have changed their upcoming travel plans due to the pandemic has also dropped down to 48%, which is down from 59% just 2 months ago. But despite improvements in traveler sentiment, roughly half of vaccinated Americans have hesitations about traveling during the holiday season. The percentage drops among unvaccinated Americans, where roughly 2/3 have no hesitations about travel as opposed to the 1/3 that do. The Milwaukee Admirals are back. After a 584-day hiatus, the Admirals returned to the ice with a win over the Grand Rapids Griffins with a record crowd. They're back in action tonight against the Chicago Ice Wolves. For more information on the Admirals' schedules, tickets, and more, visit the Admirals website. The Riverside is the site of yet another sold-out widespread panic run this weekend. 4 shows. And we at Visit Milwaukee would like to congratulate the Pabst Theater Group on this sold-out 4-night run that's bringing nearly 10,000 fans from 49 states to Milwaukee over the course of the weekend. And there's a huge street party that's taking place prior to each concert right on Wisconsin Avenue outside my window and in front of the Riverside. The Milwaukee Art Museum commemorated the 20th anniversary of the iconic skyline defining Quadracci Pavilion. The wings and cathedral-like ceilings of the Windover Hall have become an inseparable part of the Milwaukee skyline, defining the Milwaukee Art Museum as a work of art unto itself. On the subject of the Art Museum, opening on October 29th, Our Time Together by Derek Adams is a new installation on the east end of the Milwaukee Art Museum. This ongoing exhibition features a multimedia wall mural and sculpture installation, reframing the historical Black narratives and examining the role of media in shaping identity. The Art Museum will be hosting a virtual opening conversation on October 29th from 6 to 7 p.m. with Derek Adams and curator Lisa Sutcliffe. To learn more about the exhibition or to attend the virtual opening conversation, you can visit Milwaukee Art Museum's website. Potawatomi Hotel and Casino resumed their 24-hour-a-day operations this week for the first time since 2020. And beginning on November 1st, table games will make their return to the casino. Make sure to visit the Potawatomi Hotel Casino website at paysbig.com for more information. Last week, I had the opportunity to visit the warehouse where they just opened China Then and Now, which tells the story of changes in China over time and the passing of time itself. The exhibition contrasts China's historic neighborhoods to the modern city streets throughout the country through the mediums of photography, painting, ceramics, and more. This runs now through December 29th, and I want to remind everyone that it is a free exhibit to go through, free. This is a personal collection from the owners of the warehouse, and as a hotelier, if you are not promoting this as part of what you can do to attract people, you should be. Go visit the warehouse's website for more information or reach out to me, and I can put you in touch with their marketing people. At 11 a.m. today, Pat's Rib Place will join the Milwaukee Public Market, offering their signature barbecue dishes of smoked ribs, chicken wings, beef briskets, sauces, and more. For more information, check out their website or visit them today for their grand opening. Tomorrow night, Milwaukee Chamber Theater presents a 2021 Pulitzer Prize finalist play, Stew by Zora Howard. This is a breakout hit at the 2020 Milwaukee Black Theater Festival. Stew reminds us that some of the most memorable and important moments of our lives happen in the kitchen. A celebration of the bond between women and family, the hilarious and heartfelt production reveals how the secrets we keep can shape our lives of those closest to us. For more information and to purchase tickets, visit the Milwaukee Chamber Theater's website. This Saturday, the historic Third Ward neighborhood and the Milwaukee Public Market will host its annual Harvest Festival at the Riverwalk Commons. Enjoy a day of fun with live entertainment, pumpkin bowling, that sounds interesting, apple cider pressing, pumpkin carving, a Schlitz Audubon scavenger hunt along the Milwaukee River, and more. You can visit Milwaukee Public Market's website for more information. Celebrate the Museum of Wisconsin Art and the Studio Glass Movement's 60th anniversary with an exhibit focusing on the Studio Glass movement in Wisconsin at the museum's Hyde Collection. Running from October 23rd through January 23rd, the exhibition will feature 30 glass artists ranging from early groundbreaking experiments to contemporary work. To learn more about the Museum of Art and Glass Movement, you can visit their website. And I know I'm going to have Catherine go back one because I skipped one. Milwaukee Ballet returns to the Market Center for the Performing Arts stage next week for its 2021-2022 season with their performance of the contemporary program Connect. Showcasing creativity and action, Connect will run from October 28th through the 31st. To find out more information about the program, again, you can go to the Milwaukee Ballet's website. The Brumder Mansion features Two Brothers, One Mind from October 29th through the 31st. For nearly 2 decades, Milwaukee natives Chad and Jeff Orr will mentally transmit your words from one brother to another, even when one of them is out of the room. To find out more information, you can go to the Brumder Mansion website. Celebrate Dia de los Muertos with some fun family-friendly events like the Dia de los Muertos Festival and 5K Run presented by Forest Home Cemetery and Arboretum on October 30th. The Mitchell Park Domes Day of the Dead virtual celebration on October 29th, and Latino Arts Dia de los Muertos Ofrendas exhibit featuring tributes to late loved ones. It's that time of year to celebrate Halloween this season with family-friendly and bone-chilling events such as the Milwaukee County Zoo's Boo at the Zoo, Forest Home Cemetery's Halloween Tour, Ghouls and Spirits Adult Trick-or-Treat Bus with Milwaukee Food Tours, Gothic Milwaukee's Walking Tour, The Hills Have Eyes in Franklin, Illuminating the Dark Tours at the Pabst Mansion, the Milky Way Drive-In Fright Nights in Franklin, Shaker's Haunted Cigar Bar, the Spirit Experience Tour by City Tours MKE, and the Halloween Glow Drive-Through Adventure. Get ready to experience the wonder at Wisconsin State Fair this holiday season at the Noel Indoor Light Park and Christmas Market Milwaukee. Enjoy Milwaukee's biggest indoor holiday festival with festive food and drink, live entertainment, shopping, and of course, Santa. Go to the Noel Indoor Light Park's website for tickets and more information. Add a little extra magic to your holiday season this year with the Magic Lights drive-through experience at American Family Field. Beginning on November 24th and running through January 2nd, enjoy the dazzling display of lights from the comfort, warmth of your own car. And for more information, you can go to the Magic of Lights website. Finally, join Black Arts MKE for their annual production of the famous Christmas musical Black Nativity. The production features an entirely Milwaukee-based Black cast and crew led by director DeMonte Henning. Performances will run from December 9th through the 12th at the Marcus Center Wilson Theater at Vogel Hall. You can look for more information about this production at the Marcus Center's website or Black Arts MKE's website. Our next mixer is on November 3rd at the brand new Central Standard Craft House. MMAC is co-hosting this purely networking event, and you can sign up on our website. And of course, don't forget to look for notice for our next webinar in November, and we'll send details out of that very shortly. It'll be in November again at 10:30 a.m. Now, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Adam Sachs. I am so excited to hear what he has to share with you today. He is the founder and president of Tourism Economics, an Oxford economics company dedicated to understanding the relationship between travel and the economy, something that we all know about. For more than 25 years, Adam has worked with destinations, industry associations, and companies around the world to deliver market assessments, forecast scenarios, policy evaluations, and economic impact studies. He is a former member of the U.S. Department of Commerce Travel and Tourism Advisory Board, and his work regularly informs national and local government advocacy efforts. He sincerely enjoys speaking at industry conferences, but he prefers singing and playing the guitar. Adam, I'll ask you to turn on your camera and join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy. It's good to be with you. And so many exciting things happening in Milwaukee. I want to be there with all that you have going on right now. But today will have to suffice in this format. So I'm excited to share with you a few things this morning. I'm going to share with you our view, big picture, what's going on in the U.S. travel industry and in the economy, how that's taking shape. And then I'm going to jump into something at the deep end of the pool with you and share with you some insights on visitors to Milwaukee and some fascinating perspectives that come out of that and some important implications for marketing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we'll use that as a basis for getting us through some of this information together. So let's jump in. The first thing I want to talk about is what we see as characteristics of the travel recovery. And the first thing I want to point out is that the recovery has continued under storm clouds. And even as concerns regarding the Delta variant came and seemed to be subsiding, the recovery really has continued without a whole lot of regard for any of it. If you look at Longwood's data that they track, you can see that, well, right now, 1 in 4 people say their travel plans will be affected in some way by coronavirus. That's actually been coming down since the beginning of September, and the lowest it's been for about 2 months. So things have been improving actually over the last month, and air travel has actually been holding steady. What I'm showing you here is every month starting in March of last year, the percentage of air travel relative to the same month in 2019. You can see in April of 2020, only 5% of 2019 levels of air travel happened. But once we got into the summer, particularly in July, we reached up to 80% of that benchmark in 2019. And it's actually held around that, came down a bit in August and September, but then has come back again in October. And I think that's really important because that's happened even as the season has shifted a bit more toward corporate and business travel. So it tells us that leisure is very much holding its own and that business to some degree is coming back because there's no other way we'd be keeping those levels of air travel. In Milwaukee, as you just heard, hotel performance is showing continued improvement. This is from the Symphony platform that Visit Milwaukee has just implemented with tourism economics. And I'm going to share with you some snapshots of this. But I think one of the things to note is if you look at occupancy here on the right-hand side, and you compare these 3 years, you can see that the 2021 occupancy rates are really working their way toward those 2019 benchmarks. And so that's very, very encouraging. And of course, much, much better than we were in 2020. And if you look at the kind of day of the week, this is not inconsistent with anything we're seeing elsewhere in the country where the weekends have been especially strong. Those Friday and Saturday nights when we see occupancy rise, we also see rates higher, see that as well. And of course, revenue per available room higher, and a function of the leisure market being very, very strong. The Symphony also breaks it down, and this is getting updated on a weekly basis on the platform. So Visit Milwaukee has ready access to this for their tracking of what's going on in the market. But I think, we can break that down by sub-market, and there are stories there. But the thing that I think is interesting, if you look to the right here, the occupancy comparison between the county and then just downtown, if you go to 2018 and 2019, you note that the downtown area outperformed the county at large in terms of occupancy. But that has reversed in this downturn and through the recovery period, largely a function of that downturn in business and corporate group travel. But we can see a narrowing of that gap, which is also very, very encouraging. And then the other way that this data gets parsed out within Symphony is looking at short-term rental data. And you can see that short-term rental occupancy has actually been very, very strong across different downtown areas, as well as other submarkets within the region. And so short-term rentals have been indeed outperforming the traditional hotel market. This is true nationally. We're seeing this everywhere. But what's I think really, really helpful here, and I'm sharing this with you mostly as a reference point, is that this data gets updated every single week. And so Visit Milwaukee and their partners able to track this very, very closely, what's going on across these different segments and these different submarkets. So the recovery has been continued. The second characteristic is that the economy will indeed continue to rebound, in our view. Employment has continued to rise. While the September employment report was underwhelming, we see reason for encouragement that there are going to be more and more jobs added as we move through the year. We have recovered all but 5 million of the 22 million jobs that were lost in the spring of last year. And the unemployment rate now stands at just 4.8%, a remarkable V-shaped recovery for the labor market. And I think even more important than the number of jobs, which of course is fundamental, is that households are in a better position to travel financially than they have been in a very, very long time, perhaps ever. Household net worth has topped $130 trillion, and you can see how much it's shot up just over the last year and a half. And at the same time, households have shed debt. And so on the right-hand side, you can see the household debt service. That's how much needs to go to debt as a share of income on an ongoing basis. And it's fallen from, well, it was 18% about a decade ago, now stands at around 15%, has fallen even below that in recent months. So household balance sheets are in a very strong position. And so that really positions these households for travel and add to that pent-up demand of travel that was foregone in 2020 and parts of 2021. And you've got a situation where the appetite for travel and the wherewithal for travel are very well aligned to fuel continued leisure travel. The third characteristic is that labor markets have, and we believe will continue to present, a major challenge for the industry. Right now, 1 in 10 hospitality positions remain open in the US. That means for every 10 jobs in accommodation and food services, there's a job opening. So if you think about a hotel that has maybe 200 positions, they on average will also have 20 open positions, right? And so this is a major challenge to capacity, to reopening. But one of the byproducts of that is that wages have been rising quite quickly in the leisure and hospitality industry. In fact, hourly earnings have surged 11.3% relative to February 2020, even inflation adjusted, up 7.3%. And I expect that to continue to rise as the accommodation, as the hotel sector continues to need to fill positions. Wages are likely to continue to rise to deal with that shortfall in the labor market. But I do think the external environment is going to improve. When you look at why people have not been in the labor market, caring for children that were not in school but at home was a major reason for that. Well, that's been coming down. And concerns about coronavirus, we think, is likely to come down as cases and hospitalizations have been falling around the country. And then fourth characteristic of this recovery is that it's going to come in stages. And I think especially business travel, we need to recognize there's a bit of a process that we're going to need to go through to get where we want to get. According to the latest data from Global Business Travel Association, 68% of businesses in the US are currently conducting domestic business travel. Well, that's quite a recovery from where we were in June, when just 41% of businesses say they're traveling to some extent. I think it reflects the reality of how valuable business travel is, and that inevitably businesses can't sit on the sidelines indefinitely and are getting back in there. Now, that said, certainly the uptick in cases due to the Delta variant have made a difference. And I see that when I look at those that are not traveling, those businesses that still are on the sidelines. Well, in July, 68% said they're going to start traveling within the next 3 months. Well, that's come down considerably over the last 2 months. So now just 25% of those residual, the 32% that's not traveling now, say they're going to start in the next 3 months. However, if it's come down that quickly, I expect it to come back quickly as well. And so we're going to see that over the next couple of months. That number is going to come up. And so businesses, the value proposition for meeting in person is just too strong for businesses to remain indefinitely in a stay-at-home position. And what's really encouraging is if I look at STR data for group room demand, which includes all trade shows, conventions, some leisure group, but it's primarily business related. Over the last 4 weeks, we've seen continued increases in group activity relative to 2019 in the same month. And actually, we've been at 63% of that pre-pandemic level in 2019 over the last 4 weeks. So things that continue to improve. We think that sets the stage for an improvement moving forward. But fundamentally, the leisure travel market seems undeterred by anything going on in the external environment. Still, according to Longwoods, about 9 in 10 travelers say they have travel plans over the next 6 months, and it really hasn't moved over the last couple of months. In fact, the share now is at the same it was in July. It's the same it was in parts of August. So statistically, we're really about where we've been throughout this kind of full-on recovery period. And planning for travel continues unabated. US DMO website searches aggregating here across 250 DMOs have been above 2019 levels since the spring. And so travelers are going to DMO websites for planning, for visioning, for dreaming, inspiring, and they're doing so at a rate higher than they've ever done before. And so not only do we see a lot of pent-up demand, but we're seeing the role of organizations like Visit Milwaukee to be even more important than it was a couple of years ago before all this started. So let's get down to the Milwaukee Visitor. Who is the Milwaukee Visitor? We're going to talk about origins. We're going to talk about the attractions that Milwaukee's visitors like to go to. And then we'll talk about website and social media engagement as well. Hopefully this will give you a picture of sort of the profile of the Milwaukee Visitor, and happy to talk in detail once I finish through this in the next 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so. Okay, so let's jump in. I'm going to first start with the executive summary from the Symphony platform for Visit Milwaukee. And there's a lot here, but let me draw your attention to a few things. First of all, if you look at metropolitan statistical areas in August, the largest origin for your visitors is that Chicago MSA. So this is a wide definition. And then the second would be Wisconsin non-metropolitan areas. So these are areas that are not part of cities, but it is a fairly big drop off. Now I need to say this still has to be outside 50 miles, right? So unless they spend the night, they have to come from outside 50 miles to be counted as a visitor. But we learn a lot about the visitor from the data. About 56% of visitors are overnight visitors, right? 42% are repeat visitors, and the average length of stay is 1.6 days. Also, you'll note here on the bottom in terms of recovery indicators that short-term rental demand has been, we've got a little break in series, but you can see that it's been not only outperforming other metrics such as hotel revenue, demand, or employment, but it's actually higher than it was in 2019. Right. You can see in terms of sort of key metrics here that organic Facebook impressions have been well above where they were last year. The same would be true of organic web sessions. And of course, we're making our way back in terms of leisure and hospitality jobs as well. Dropping into Facebook, right? So social media engagement. We can learn a lot about Milwaukee's visitors by the engagement on Facebook. And there are a couple of things that I think jump out to me. One is that the audience has been increasing since the end of August. So just showing you the month of September here, each week we've seen an increase in the audience. Also for the month of September, we see that one of the key landing pages on your website that were driven by Facebook was Beer Pass, right? And I noted a lot of the partners in the brewing segment. Well, really effective engagement in terms of promotion of the craft brewery beer sector on Facebook, and how that's been driving activity to the website. And then behind that meetings and conventions. Right. So what else do we know? We know that females represent about nearly 70% of the audience on Facebook in terms of engagement with Visit Milwaukee. We also know that the demographics seem to center around this 35 to 54 range within the female cohort. All right. So the bit on the social media, we're starting to learn more about who this visitor is, what their interests are. Drive a little bit more down on Facebook with you, if I may. I see that one, again, total daily impressions has been really picking up through the summer and the fall so far. So that's been really, really encouraging. And that page reach, a little bit different distribution than audience, where audience is kind of really centering in that 35 to 54. Page reach is a little more evenly distributed. All right. Now let's talk about the website. So that was Facebook. Now we're going to talk about the website and the reach there. Lots to show you here. So let me give you just the highlights here. We'll start with origin markets. So the number one origin market is actually Milwaukee. So Milwaukee residents are using the Visit Milwaukee website, representing about 20% of sessions. But Chicago, 7.4%, Washington, D.C., 3%, New York, 2.8%, Madison, 2.2%. All right, so a pretty wide reach once you get beyond the direct the local region. Again, for the website, Beer Pass was a big feature in terms of awareness. The homepage representing about 9%, so not far beyond Beer Pass. Now, I'm going to go dynamically in here in a minute and see how it changes. This is September data. Top refers Google by a long shot. All right. And then the other thing to note is that this is very exciting to me, is that similar to what we've seen at the national level, 2021 performance has beaten 2019 performance in September. It's the first month it's happened. And so that's a great harbinger of where things are going. Of course, if you compare it to 2019, you're up, 180%. Or I'm sorry, 2020, 180%. But I think it's more helpful sometimes to compare it to 2019 at this point. All right, but on the map, you can see that the website has a really wide reach. And so while it's certainly centered, it's being referenced by really all parts of the country. And you can see these larger circles representing key cities around the country. Now, air travel data will tell us something about origins as well. So this is just people that are flying into Milwaukee. And one thing we note is that we've seen continued recovery through June. We'll have July data within the next week, and I would anticipate that showing continued recovery. But if you look at the origin mix, well, origin in 19 and 20, Orlando was the top origin, followed by New York in 2019, Phoenix in 2020. But jump to this year, the first 6 months of the year, it's Orlando, Fort Myers, then Phoenix and Tampa and Vegas. So some of this is gonna represent travel in both directions, but it still tells us something about the air service and the volume of people traveling. All right, so now we're going to dig a little deeper here. All right, so this is all mobile device data, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift from what we're looking right now as a static view, and I'm going to go to a dynamic view, and we're going to use this to try to answer some questions together. So right now we're looking at the month of September, tracking mobile devices from anywhere in the U.S. to Milwaukee. Now, for that month, what do we know? We know 1.3 day average length of stay, 60% spending the night in the month of September, and 45% are repeat visitors. Origin states, not surprisingly, Wisconsin, followed by Illinois, Iowa, Missouri. Top 10 visitor origin counties, well, Cook County, followed by Dane, Winnebago, Brown, right? Now, let's change the time period and see what changes here. So instead of just the month of September, why don't we go all the way back to the beginning of the year? So now we're going to look at a bigger set of data and see how things change. Well, let's drop into some of the things we haven't looked at yet. The top, these are places of interest. And so we can actually geofence down to a very, very close area to look at where are people going once they come to Milwaukee. And we see that the top POI is Menominee Valley, right? So 37% of visitors are going to Menominee Valley. And of your visitors, household income, we can track that as well, because what we do is we take that mobile device and we trace it back to where it resides based on where its common evening location, where it rests most of the year, and look at what is the demographic profile of that census block. And so by combining the mobile device data with census data, we can learn a lot more about your visitors. Well, over this period of time, from January through September of this year, you can see that 21% of visitors are between that 25,000 to 49,000 household income per year. On the upper end, about 30% make more than 100,000 if you add up these two cohorts. All right. Now let's look at something just to drop in a little bit more, if I want to look at just visitors from Wisconsin, we can actually dive in and look at the top counties just from Wisconsin and see how the demographics have changed. So you can see that we've got a little bit less household income, average household income, if I go to Wisconsin. Now, if I go to, let's go ahead and click on Florida and see what visitors from Florida look like. Well, perhaps not surprising because they're coming from farther. We've got a higher share of that higher income group. And perhaps not surprising as well, we've got a higher share of 65 and up from that part of the country. All right, so a lot we can do there in terms of understanding the visitor once we drive into where they're coming from. We also might look at the airport and just say, well, people that are flying in, what can that tell us? So just click there. All right. Actually, I'm going to do that on the next screen. So let me go to cross visitation. All right. This tells us once people come to Milwaukee, what are they doing? All right. So we'll start with the airport. So almost 11% of visitors to Milwaukee had at least one visit to the airports. We're saying almost certainly they flew in or flew out or both of Milwaukee. And what we learn about them is that of them, 36% also went to Menominee Valley, right? And 32% went to Walker's Point, right? And 27.7% went to Bronzeville, Lindsay Heights. Is it Harambee, if I'm saying it correctly? All right. And again, origin by state, Wisconsin, 26.8%. But let's change this up. Let's go from the airport and let's instead choose another point of interest. And let me take a look here. We're going to go
let's do Fiserv Forum.
Definitely. Thank you. So Fiserv Forum. So now we're going to learn about, so people that went to Fiserv Forum, let's learn about them. Right? Well, we know that, let's see, in terms of where else they went, well, 100% went to this region. I assume that's because it's in there. But 77% went to Menominee Valley. All right. Menominee Valley. Thank you. All right. Distribution of income, about 30% making at least $100,000. All right. And the origins in terms of counties, well, Dane County, number 1, Cook County, number 2, and Brown, number 3. All right. I want to pick one more just as a, is another one that jumps out you think would be interesting to the group?
We had a question about Potawatomi Hotel and Casino.
All right. Well, we could do that. All right. So 1.1% of all trips within the data set. And you can see the sample size here of about 3,500. That's a really good sample size to project from. So you want to know kind of the distribution, the profile of this visitor. You got to sample 3,500 visitors to this attraction. And so that you got a pretty high level of confidence there. Well, household income, a good bit higher, right? So we're at 32%, making that at least $100,000. Distribution, 35% from Wisconsin, 32% from Illinois. You can see the cross visitation. So those that went to Potawatomi Hotel Casino. That's embarrassing.
Potawatomi.
I'm never going to get invited back. It's all right. And so, but you can see that, their cross visitation, a significant share, almost half also going to Walker's Point. All right. Now, this is for the whole January through September period. If we wanted, we could say, well, let's just look at the summer visitor, see if there's any difference here. So we'll just go June 1st. And then isolate that through the end of August. I don't know that it'll change all that much. No? And we could say, well, let's just do weekends and see how that changes. So when you start thinking about marketing for particular times, it makes a big difference. Really interesting change there. You see Illinois became the top visitor when we started looking at weekends versus weekday, right? So Illinois now 37% for weekends. When you go to weekday, Illinois drops down to 27%. So clearly we're pulling from a further reach, and you can look at the distribution once you get to weekends. All right, let me give you one other view of this category cross visitation. And here, let's start with the convention center, right? And so those that go to the convention center, there are 11.9% of trips had at least one visit to the convention center. This is, again, we're just focusing on the summer right now. For my own curiosity, I'm just going to look at the month of September, because I do want to see how things have looked through the fall, what data we have. All right, so a couple things to know. We have a sample of 5,636. Within September, not surprisingly, an even higher share had a visit to the convention center, 13.5%. And you see, after Menominee Valley, historic third ward, nearly 2/3 of convention center visitors going here. So, significant cross visitation there. One of the things that I noted when I was spending a bit of time with us earlier in the week is that so convention center visitors, the household income, again, just focus on the 100,000 up. You're right at 30%, right? If you add these two cohorts up, if you go to, let's say, the airport, it goes up even farther. So people that are flying in to Milwaukee are your higher income visitors. So here you're at 38% in that 100,000 and up, and perhaps not surprising, but I think affirms the higher value nature of visitors who are flying.
Adam, can you go back and look at intermodal for category selection? Or train station? Is that
Yes.
what would show there? Yeah,
Yep,
sorry.
there we go.
Yeah.
All right, so 1.2% of visitors, 62% going to the historic third ward. Origins, 22% from Illinois. But after Wisconsin, we got 9% from Missouri, 7.7% for North Carolina. And it's probably not surprising that a large share coming from Cook County. All right. Now, there is, I do want to maybe just, try to give perspective to why is this information valuable? In some sense, we're just taking a tour through a lot of content and not necessarily drawing, conclusions that are going to answer the question that's on the top of your mind right now. But whatever the marketing decision is in terms of when to deploy, where to deploy, and what to deploy, we can learn a lot from this information. And when you combine it with perspectives on, what are the topics that are driving people's activity at the website, and who are the visitors, where do they come from, when do they come, it really informs sort of those key tactical decisions of, when are you going to execute plans on delivering marketing to different places at different times with different content. And so this platform, this is getting updated continuously for Visit Milwaukee. And I believe some of it's going to begin to be available to Visit Milwaukee stakeholders as well. But I'll leave that to others to explain. So maybe I'll stop sharing. And if there are any other questions, I can drop back into that. But happy to answer any other questions.
Adam, someone says, how does a smartphone get tracked in the first place?
That's a great question, and an unsettling question as well. But the way that it works is that we all, with apps, to some degree, are opting in to being tracked. Now, you can opt out of that as well. And with the latest iOS, the last 2 editions, you have even more kind of need to make that decision on whether you want to opt in or opt out. But there are apps, particularly apps that are, you really can't use them without having your data collected. So think about like maps or weather. And so those things do begin to collect data, which is warehoused and then available for platforms like this. So it's really the user who both opts in, and your activity on certain apps provides this sort of data.
Another question is, back when you were talking about searches that originated in Milwaukee, could those be visitors that are here and the search originated because they were in Milwaukee, or do you track it from an IP address that says that they literally live here?
I'm gonna have to confirm that. I'm not 100% sure on the website data, whether it's based on IP address or whether it's based on mobile location. But I will find that out and come back to you with that answer.
Great. And now I'm going to get into one question, and this, I don't know if it's of interest to everyone else, but when you're looking at, so because Potawatomi is in the Menominee Valley, is there a way for us to further separate out how many in the Menominee Valley visits go directly to Potawatomi, and the same with the Deer District and the Bronzeville, Harambe neighborhoods? Is that something we need to further look at in our list of 50 categories?
I think that we can do it. In fact, might be able to do it as it stands. Can you give me the 2 POIs again?
Do Potawatomi and Menominee Valley, because Potawatomi is in Menominee Valley. There
Yes.
are, it would extend to like the Iron Horse, Harley Davidson Museum, and there's one restaurant there, but it's not a very large area where there's a lot of, besides those places. So I'm just wondering how we can separate out. Oh, and
Right.
also we think American Family Field might also be classified in the Menominee Valley, which is where our baseball team plays.
Right. I'm looking at the list, and I don't think, it doesn't look like we can do it right now, but it's something that could easily be done, because those POIs can be defined really tightly. And so it's just a matter of kind of how do we categorize them within the POI list, but very doable.
Okay, thank you. It looks like one of the attendees has their hands raised, but I can't see who it is.
Susan, if you could type your question into the chat, that would be appreciated.
Waiting to see if they put that in there, and I'm not seeing anyone put any other questions in there. As Adam stated, we're hoping to make a dashboard available to our partners on our website. That's something that's a little further down the road. We just implemented this research about a month ago, and we're still trying to figure it out as well. So that we understand better how to market, and then give you the opportunity to better market to your customers as well. There are a few more questions now that just came in. Susan Frauchi, my question was about influence of gambling, and I'm not sure what you're asking there. So I can follow up with you and maybe answer that question. Pat Rowe from the airport said, will there be an international visitor component as travel restrictions ease? There is, yeah.
Yes. And so we're working on that now. And so that there are separate tabs just for international.
And then will we be able to get these stats? And by stats, again, I said we will be working to make a dashboard available for you, but anytime you have questions or you need things like this, you can certainly reach out to us. But we'll also be publishing some of these things in the weekly insights that we send out as well. Great. Well, Adam, thank you for the information. It was truly valuable. You are a wealth of knowledge, as we already knew, and I thank you for taking the time to come on and explain this this new system to our partners. So thank you very much. And
Thanks, Peggy.
everyone else on the call, thank you very much for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.